Right, so everyone, thank you very much for joining this month's community update. This is December of 2023 and nearing the end of the year. And yeah, thank you very much for joining. We are going to start with a little update. You may have seen it somewhere, maybe not. It's not huge, but we think it's rather nice. We have changed the N in Onino. That's the big announcement. Thanks for joining today. No, just kidding. But yeah, we thought this symmetrical little change in the Onino logo would be nice. So we've implemented that. And yeah, we hope you like it. It's just a little minor visual change, but we think it's pretty cool. Also, maybe now having the perfect symmetry around the N. All right. As always, you know it, we're going to start with the What is Onino segment for the ones that have forgotten or do not know yet what Onino is. And essentially, we've written down here, Onino is making blockchain technology accessible and more user-friendly. And that's the idea about Onino. We're taking blockchain technology and bringing it out there and hoping to have companies and people use it much more than they have before. The background was, at the beginning, we want to build applications that everyone can use on blockchain. Then we saw that the infrastructure was lacking, and we decided to build the infrastructure ourselves. And with the Onino platform came the new product, which was the second step. First problem is the infrastructure that was lacking, and we're solving this problem. And once you have the infrastructure, the next problem is how do you use that infrastructure? And that's where the Onino platform comes in, where from the beginning to the end, you are taken along the blockchain development journey, and that's going to make it much, much easier for smaller, medium, and even big companies to use blockchain technology, and that's what Onino does. So today we're going to go over 7 points. First is going to be the Onino platform. The second is going to be the platform release and the release date. Then we're going to talk about new Onino team members, then the Cadaico pre-seed sale success, the BUSD pool closing, the Onino testnet updates, the Onino platform updates, and then there's going to be a question segment and live questions at the end. So as I said, first point, the Onino platform. And last time we went into technical details and Kai explained to you how it works. And I just wanted to go a little bit over the historical background. Where did we come from and how did we decide to implement the Onino platform? And I gave it away a little in the explanation of what Onino is. Essentially, we are developing our own blockchain, and it's going to be a layer 0 blockchain, DAG-based, and you're going to have the ability to either use the Onino blockchain or custom Onino subchains for specific requirements for companies, for example. And we saw that after solving this first problem of the technology, the second problem arises, or opportunity, essentially, how do you use this technology? And many companies have problems with that. The big companies, they may have big enough teams to hire blockchain developers or blockchain development teams, but smaller companies cannot afford that. And so the only option is not to use blockchain or to use a blockchain agency. And we want to change that. And that's where the Onino blockchain comes in, where the idea is that with little or in the end, maybe no development knowledge, you will be able to use blockchain technology from the beginning, the ideation part, where you really think about how do I implement blockchain? How can blockchain help me until the development? Which kind of blockchain do I need? And how do I develop smart contracts on it, for example, until the deployment? Where do I deploy it? How do I deploy it? How is it going to run? Up until the integration. How does this blockchain function with other programs, with other tools, and through simple APIs, for example. And this is the Onino platform going really from A to Z, and all this is powered by the Onino blockchain. And just wanted to go a little into that again. And the next point is the Onino platform release, and that's already one of our big announcements today. The Onino platform is not just something that's going to happen at some point. The Onino platform will be released on 21st of December this year. So we said, okay, Onino, testnet is a big thing, but not for us. It is, but let's release another product on the same day, which is going to be the Onino platform. So on the 21st of December, it's going to be a twofold surprise. On one hand, there's going to be the Onino platform, and on the other hand, the Onino testnet. And we hope that you're going to like that, and we think that's pretty cool. As you know, we have been known to stick to our dates and rather overachieve than underachieve. And that's a testament to that. So instead of just releasing one product, let's do two. Third point is the Onino team members. Our team, as you know, has always been lean. We didn't want to add more people than we needed. But now the point has come where the tech is really maturing and where the team is maturing, and where we want to add specific people to specific positions. One of them has already been announced. It's Dr. Andreas Penskofer, and he has a lot of know-how. And I think best would be to either read the blog article, or I don't know, Kai or Lucas, if you want to go a little into the explanation, because he's going to help us in the tech team. And maybe Lucas, you may be the best suited to say a couple of words regarding Andreas.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. Andreas is, first of all, a really, really great guy with a great personality. And on the other hand, he just has such a vast amount of experience he brings to the table, and brings especially to the team of Onino. Like, he had several publications already, and is especially focused on DAG-based ledgers, so building blockchain technology that uses DAG technology to be more efficient in some parts and to some extents. And his whole research background just shows how much he brings to the table. And he also has been working for IOTA quite a long time. He was a senior research and team lead, research team lead back there at IOTA, and now he has the ability to bring all that experience into Onino, and he will be a big and crucial part of us going further, developing our architecture and our systems, especially when it comes to the whole sub-chain architecture we will be releasing. With that, I give the ball back to you, Alex.
Perfect. Thank you, Lucas. All right, that's the first addition to the team. As you see, the slide wouldn't be perfectly symmetrical, so there is a second addition, and this is Maya. Maya has been working with us, and we have been working with her for Cadaico, for example. She has been helping in the marketing for Cadaico, but initially we met through Onino because we wanted to extend the marketing team for a long time. And Maya has a lot of know-how in the blockchain and Web3 and crypto space, and has been there for even longer than we have. And so she has been a very seasoned person, been working with many projects, and knows the space better than most of the people I know. So she's a perfect addition to our marketing team with all the know-how and the context she has, and she will be helping us for marketing. So fourth point is the Cadaico pre-seed sale success. You have been following, I think, and most of you must know Cadaico, so I'm not going to go into details of what Cadaico does. But the Cadaico pre-seed sale had been opened, and we have raised, or the Cadaico team has raised, $83,420, which is 167% of the soft cap, which is a great success for us, specifically regarding the current market conditions. But anyhow, so really happy that our first customer has been successful with their sales, and more customers and more sales are going to be coming up soon, either waiting market conditions or just internal processes. But this is a huge success for us. It really shows that the framework we have built with tokenized fundraising, our Onino Launchpad, and all the other things in the background that you might not even see directly are working, have been working, and will continue to work on them. And with that, Lucas is going to talk about the BUSD pool closing.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. There have been a few questions around this already in the Telegram chat, and we just now want to officially address it. So as most of you know already, or may know already, the BUSD stablecoin will be stopped to supported by multiple exchanges out there. One of the prominent ones is Binance, for example, because of the whole situation around the SEC declaring it as a security, and Paxos basically stopping their support for BUSD, which essentially leads us to the decision that we will also be stopping our BUSD liquidity pool. So we will be opening the withdrawal of all BUSD tokens and the tokens that were deposited in the contract essentially tomorrow at 1 p.m. CET. So everyone in the current pools will be able to exchange their liquidity tokens, and then we highly encourage to move over to the more stable token pools, prominently speaking about our recently released Ethereum and Oni liquidity pools. And that is just an information we want to put out there. There will also be announcements tomorrow in the Telegram and on Twitter when things are open. But everyone in those pools currently does not have to fear that they can't access their liquidity pool tokens beforehand. They will be able to access them starting by tomorrow. All right, and with that, we can go over the next updates on the testnet. As Alex already mentioned, there are two things releasing, and one of these things is the testnet releasing on 21st of December. So to give a little bit more context, because we believe that there might have been some different understandings of what the testnet means in terms of how we approach the testnet from the team side, and then how the testnet can actually be used by users, developers, and maybe also validators down the road. So for us as the team, the testnet basically holds three main focus points during the whole testnet process in its different phases. On the one hand, we want to onboard developers. We want to strengthen our efforts in basically building our developer community, not only from the businesses we're working with currently, but also from the native Web3 community and native Web3 space. Then, of course, the performance tests, which are conducted directly by the team. We will be monitoring everything that happens on the testnet and then adjust our efforts there depending on what we basically have monitored. And then also one major point is, of course, the integration of the Onino platform. So the end-to-end guidance for anyone, and the end goal actually is to enable everyone out there to be a Web3 developer with the help of our platform. And that will be fully integrated on the testnet starting from the 21st of December. And there we can basically go through a lot of feedback loops and many iterations to make the platform even greater and make it ready for the full mainnet launch, to not only have functioning tech on the one hand, but also have an excellent onboarding mechanism for everyone that wants to use the tech and wants to build great applications that at the end bring a lot of more value to the whole Onino ecosystem. Then one thing you can expect too is the Gitbook documentation. We will initially release our documentation on this Friday of this week, so the 8th of December. With more detailed descriptions of the whole processes we are undertaking and a lot of information many of you have asked for already in the chat. And then we will gradually add a lot more information to the documentation in the coming weeks. And you can expect things like the detailed conceptual descriptions of our architecture, a wide range of how-tos that range from how do I even use blockchain to how do I integrate a blockchain solution in the future. Then our general developer tool documentations alongside our platform documentation. So there will be a lot of information released in the coming weeks and also during the testnet. And we will start with the first public release of our documentation on this Friday. So I have something to look forward to there, especially for all people that are hungry for more information around Onino and the intricate workings of our systems. Then I want to also cover quickly the 4 phases we have set for our testnet and the testing in general. So we will begin with phase 1, and this is the initial testing and onboarding of developers. So for on the next slide, I will cover what you can expect as a user, but the phase 1 is really focused on onboarding developers and us seeing that everything runs correctly in a public environment and that the network is holding up in terms of its capacities and we do not run into any issues there. Then phase 2 will cover the onboarding of testnet validators. To put that into more context, there's those will not be real validators in terms of putting up the stake needed and then validating once they started the node client. It will be individual testings of onboarding and offboarding validators out of the system. So we can see that our node client basically works as the software as it is written, so that people with enough knowledge about validating can spin up their node and then have a running validator node at the end of the day. So these will be tests conducted in phase 2. Phase 3 is basically reserved for all the fixes and protocol adjustments we have to make before the mainnet release. So every learning from phase 1 and 2 directly flows into phase 3. That's where the team will be really busy, depending on what our initial tests and performance tests have shown. And then we will hopefully rather quickly transition to phase 4, which is the really interesting phase, which also marks the creation of the Onino Genesis block with the migration to the Onino mainnet in 2024. So these are the 4 phases. And as I mentioned, a lot of more detail on these individual phases and the processes will be shared in our Gitbook documentation coming on this Friday, and all the updates coming to documentation in the coming weeks. Now, I just want to cover a few things because there were a few questions in the chat always, and there is always some misunderstanding on what a testnet means. So many people have different interpretations on what a testnet actually means for a project. So we've put out the registration for the testnet itself a few weeks back, and you can still sign up through the link that is displayed there on the slide, and we will later post it again into our channels. And we've basically split the groups that you can sign up for into 3 different and specific groups. So on the one hand, as I covered already, developers. Developers will be basically put into separate communication channels because they will receive specific documentations and onboarding tutorials and information that is fully tailored toward what do I as a developer need to build up on the Onino network and to most efficiently manage my time, and what do I have to basically account for when to build on the Onino network. Then for users, this is like where we have to get into things what users actually can expect from a testnet, because a testnet is most of the time primarily for the protocol owners to test their protocol, and then also for builders to pre-build applications, test it in a sandbox environment before shipping it to a mainnet. So users, honestly speaking, don't have too much to do. They, of course, testing out transactions and providing ideas and feedback, and also then test out third-party applications that are on the testnet. But you should not expect a lot of things to do for users unless you want to be really active and maybe will also want to test out our platform. But as mentioned, the primary focus for the testnet is to give builders the possibilities to build already on the Onino network before migrating to the mainnet. And then the third user group would be validators in general. And the validators will be onboarded in testnet phase number 2, where they can then test out our node client and get ready and know what they have to prepare in terms of preparation for the mainnet migration. And yeah, I just want to basically put things into perspective for every user in our community. Do not expect to have a full-fledged network where you can do a lot of things. Expect to integrate our testnet into your wallet, into your current wallets. We will provide the documentation for that and the how-tos for that. You can send around a few transactions, and then maybe you can start looking at our platform that will also release on 21st. So you can maybe transition also one day from a user to a developer and can build whatever you've dreamed of the crypto space is missing. And you can be as creative as you want. And then the testnet will be a great success also for you. And with that, I will give Kai the mic to tell us a little bit more about the Onino platform.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lucas. So Alex already gave a nice little overview of the platform in the beginning of the presentation. And now I want to make a little bit of a deep dive into the single features of the platform, into what will be basically the user flow across this platform, so that all of you basically can make yourself a better picture on what is Omnio's Onino blockchain platform actually is. So yeah, as a quick recap, just to say it on a high level, Unino blockchain platform is basically a cloud platform that makes it very easy for everyone to easily ideate, development, deploy, and integrate value-creating blockchain solutions into their business or build them up from the ground. And that, most importantly, without massive cost or broad knowledge in the blockchain development space, so to say. And as Alex also mentioned, the first MVP or beta, so to say, of the platform will also be released on the 21st of December, together with our Onino testnet. So now I just want to dive a bit deeper into how all of that works. So just so you can make yourself a little picture in your head, how it will look like. So first, the users can easily create a new blockchain project, how we call it in the platform. They can name it, add a description, and so on. And then each of these projects has several kind of life cycle stages through which it can go until it's then finally completed and in production, so to say. And the first one, this is also often a huge barrier of entry for basically non-crypto native people, is the ideation phase. So to say, like, what can I actually do with blockchain? What can it bring for me in my business? And here we'll also have a collection of, I would say, interesting case studies, you could call it, that present how blockchain can provide value for different kinds of industries, and that in a very easy to understand manner, so that also people who are not really tech savvy or blockchain savvy can understand it. And on the other hand, like in a second lane, so to say, we will also have an AI assistant that is trained to chat with people from every level of knowledge and also every industry, to help them to exactly find out if and how blockchain could, so to say, provide value for their business. And rest assured, we're not becoming a complete AI company now, but for the sake of efficiency and also quality, we use existing state-of-the-art LLM models via APIs that are in turn specialized to exactly that, basically analyzing business requirements of companies and then proposing blockchain solutions. And one cool little side feature about that is that we use them all, all of these AI models, in a self-hosted environment, and by that we can make sure that they are also fully GDPR compliant for our future customers, which is especially for European industry customers a very important step or aspect. And then the next stage, after the user has decided on what they want to build with blockchain, is obviously the development. So there, to support people in development, also the ones who are not that tech savvy, we will have an ever-growing collection of so-called templates. So these are basically pre-built blockchain solution templates for a broad variety of use cases. So for example, different kinds of tokens, maybe DAOs, every kind of solution you could think of, that users can just quickly browse through this template library, and then they can select a suitable template for their project with one click. But on the other hand, if you don't find anything that fits your needs in a template collection, you can also there use the AI assistant. So if, for example, a customer decides to build a business case that is not from one of the template libraries, then the AI assistant will help them to turn the idea that they have, which is mostly non-technical probably, into deployment-ready smart contract code that can be executed on the blockchain. So and then after the smart contracts for the user's blockchain product have been created or developed, then the next step is the deployment. So basically, in simple terms, it means that you have to write the code from your smart contracts onto a blockchain to make them basically accessible and make them runnable, so to say. And for that, we will also have an automated mechanism that allows to easily deploy your, so to say, freshly baked code with one click onto the Onino testnet, and in the future, probably also other networks. This is, in my opinion, a really important step, because I think most of you who have ever worked with Remix or other crypto IDEs or blockchain IDEs know what a cumbersome process this can be. So we also want to facilitate that aspect. And now we have thought of a cool solution, we have developed it, and we have also deployed it on the blockchain, but there's still one puzzle piece missing, which is in many cases like the most important puzzle piece. So then after that, it comes to the integration into existing ecosystems. And I personally think that this may be the most important step, because like in many talks, especially with Web2 traditional companies, we have made the experience that often the integration of blockchain solutions into their existing code bases and infrastructures is one of the biggest hurdles, right? And also there's kind of a lack of guides for that on the internet. So therefore, for all of the templates that we put onto the platform, we will also provide extensive documentation and also integration guides for your existing code bases. And in the future, we are also planning to also use the AI assistant here and offer automated documentation and integration guides also for the non-template code that was created in the development step. So that was basically the end-to-end process of the Unino platform. It helps every customer from ideation over development, over deployment, until to integration to build a blockchain project. Yeah, just to illustrate it a little bit more, I thought I would give you like a little user story, so to say, like a little example. So just think of maybe the innovation manager of a small regional bank right around your corner. And the manager thinks, hey, okay, I want to make real cool, interesting new investment opportunities for my customers, for example. So they say, okay, I want to, for example, tokenize the financing of a local building block, like a large real estate block in the neighborhood, so to say. Then you can basically go to the platform, sign up there, create a new blockchain project called like the asset tokenization, for example, name it whatever he wants. Then in the first step, the ideation, he can basically have a little discussion, so to say, with our AI assistant and see what pitfalls there could be, and can be consulted by the assistant on how he should basically approach the whole thing, how it can deliver value for his business, and so on. Then in the next stage, he can go to the development phase, basically browse our template gallery or template library, where we'll find a template for asset tokenization. Then the platform will basically ask him some specifics, basically how many shares do you want to tokenize your asset, how is it called, and so on and so on. Then the user can basically just click on, hey, I want to use this template. That looks quite good. And then the template, including the whole code, the whole documentation, everything is then assigned to the project. Then he can just move on to the next step, to the deployment. And yeah, deployment definitely something that would have been quite impossible for a bank innovation manager with limited technical knowledge, but using the platform, he will be able to just press a button and the whole thing will be deployed automatically. And then in the end, our bank manager in the example will get a full-fledged integration guide that says, for example, okay, in Java or in TypeScript, you will have to integrate your new created code like this and this and this. And then the bank manager can basically just give that to his IT guy who manages the bank's operations. So he will basically easily integrate it for him. And he has quite easily created a really, really cool MVP for a value creating new product for his bank without having to hire an entire blockchain team or having to hire 6 blockchain consultants for half a year and pay 30K. But yeah, the platform in this example basically just helped him to easily and quickly and without a lot of cost spin up a cool and working and value creating MVP for his business. Yeah, I hope that kind of explanation into the single steps and the workflows on the platform helped you a bit to better understand what we are planning to do with the platform. Also the short little user story. But if you have any more questions on how the platform will work, what you can do on it, if you have ideas for future features or features that you want to see in the platform yourself, just feel free to reach out to us via Telegram, and we'll definitely put them on the backlog. Yeah, thank you very much. And I think with that, we can move on to the next slide, which is the final little bonus announcement. The new Onino website, which has been fully refactored, will be coming next week. Yeah, it will be, as you will see, like I would say, entirely different from the current website, because the current website, so to say, more of has a strategic and visionary focus. And the new website, also aligned with the upcoming Onino platform and the Onino testnet, will have a focus, so to say, on, yeah, I would say, potential business customers who would then who the website is targeting at. So yeah, stay definitely tuned for next week. We hope that you will all like the new website. And yeah, of course, as always, we're looking forward to your feedback on your website, and we hope you're gonna like it. Yeah, that was the little bonus announcement. And I think with that, we can already move on to the questions. Also this week, we have received a lot of good questions, a lot of very smart questions, which we're gonna happily answer now in the following. I think we can just jump to the question slide. Yes, there it is. I will just start off with the questions while I'm already talking. So the first one is, on release of the Unino dashboard, it was really buggy, enough to lose some confidence in the team at the time. Can you confirm that the testnet will not be buggy like this before being released? Obviously, testnet is for testing bugs, but needs to have at least the basics running properly. or will likely lose even more confidence as it will be more on the public stage this time around? Good question, definitely. And rest assured, we are definitely thoroughly testing the basic functionalities of the testnet as good as we can. Obviously, we'll also have, I would say, well thought out penetration tests. We're also working with an external partner for that to test our testnet. But as you mentioned, a testnet is still a testnet and is primarily made for testing, as the name indicates. There will definitely be some room for improvement. There will definitely be probably some things that could be fixed or could be running more smooth. But as I said, and as you already also said, this is exactly what a testnet is made for, to identify basically all of the room for improvement, basically come up with new ideas, come up with any feature improvements that you can think of, so that basically all of this will be present when the mainnet, the actual blockchain, is then launching in the future. Then the next question we got is, are you already building an on-chain identity solution in other dApps? If so, what are the dApps, and will they be ready for the testnet? So as Lucas has said before, basically a testnet, just to make that clear again, a testnet, so to say, is actually really primarily focused on basically the company itself, in this case us, to test the network, and developers, so that you can also already start to develop applications before the mainnet is launched. So there will not be a broad variety of apps that can already be used on a testnet. Just to make that more clear, basically think of all different kinds of blockchain applications that you know. Most of them contain some kind of value or some kind of tokens of value. So therefore, basically a lot of blockchain applications on a testnet would not directly make that much sense for the end users themselves. So for example, you as an end user wouldn't have that much value from using, for example, a lending protocol or a DeFi app if there's no actual value behind the coins, as it's a testnet. But to get back to your question, we're already actually in talks with several interesting partners who would actually be interested on building a on-chain identity solution on our blockchain, launching with the mainnet. We can't disclose the names here, unfortunately, yet, as always. And we also have other quite interesting projects in the pipeline and several letters of intent of customers who are willing to build on the network. But same goes here, they also cannot be announced yet. And additionally, as we have learned today, as a dApp, so to say, the first MVP of the Onino blockchain platform will also be launched on the testnet. So I think this is definitely a really, really cool application, a really cool feature that you can use on a testnet, especially compared to other testnets. Then I think for the next question, I would just hand the ball to Lucas.
Yes, thank you very much. The next question is, what will be the release system of the remaining 77 million of tokens? So it's actually not 77 million, it's more of like 67 million. So there was a mathematical mistake. But this, to keep it short, a lot of detail on that will be shared when we release our documentation and Gitbook. But to keep my answer also straightforward, we generally, the tokens that are still left to be released are on the one hand team and advisor tokens, and then also validators, staking rewards, and the total that we reserved for grants in terms of the Onino innovation program. So all team and advisor tokens are all vested for a period of 3 years starting from the mainnet. And then again, the validator and grant program, this will be released gradually depending on the network usage. So validator rewards are designed in a system they should never run out. So it kind of will never reach the fully circulating amount of 100 million in that system, but we will go into much more detail on that when you can read through on our Gitbook. And then also the grant program, these will all be vested to some extent depending on the individual things that get decided in terms of how is the grant structured for and how much does a project even need for building on the Onino network and building a dApp in our ecosystem. With that, I will give Kai the next question to answer.
Yeah, thank you, Lucas. Are the coins blocked on the farm included in the amount of out of circulation coins? No, they are in circulation because basically the tokens that are, so to say, reserved for the people who have put their coins into the staking pools are already out of Onino, so to say, and are ready to be withdrawn. So they're basically counted to the in circulation supply that we have. Then I would just continue with the next question. I see you focus a lot on AI with the platform, and also Cadaico is depending on AI. Is AI good enough at today's stage for your visions? What are your thoughts regarding the AI? I think that's a really, really great question, especially for me, as I have an AI background, actually. I really love to make philosophical discussions about the state of AI. So great question. Thanks for that. Basically, in our opinion, I can say, speaking for the three of us, today's world is crucial for almost every business operation to leverage AI wherever it makes sense, because otherwise you will definitely be left behind by companies who do improve their user experience and do increase their operational efficiency with AI. And I personally think that this also is not valid only for companies, but also for individuals. Just to get a bit more into detail on that, a lot of people say, or basically are afraid that AI is going to replace them and going to replace their jobs. I personally think that this is not the case, but I think that basically people who know how to leverage AI to get a lot more efficient and double their efficiency are the ones that are threatening their jobs. But also on the other hand, in my opinion, despite all of the recent improvements in the last year and all of the hype that AI gained, I think that the technology is still at the very beginning of what is yet to come and still only scratching the surface of what is yet to come. And right now you still cannot and also should not 100% trust the outputs of AI, obviously, because they are still biased in some cases, don't have 100% perfect information, and hallucinate, so to say. But still, on the other hand, I personally think that it can already be used today as a personal advisor or assistant. And getting back to that, especially in the complex fields such as smart contract development, where many people still lack the know-how or even like the general know-how on matters. I personally think that exactly for cases like the Unino platform, AI is already mature enough and is definitely in a state of technology where it can already now provide a lot of value to people. But happy to go more into philosophical AI discussions in the chat if you want to. Great question. Then we will have a mainnet migration question again. Pools unlocking for mainnet migration. Are you putting any mechanism in place to stop a large sell-off when all pools are unlocked from the mainnet migration? Can it be auto-staked in new pools with the same lock-in time remaining, for example? Great question, fair question. We'll also be fair on that. An automated migration to a new mainnet is technically speaking quite a complex process. Just to illustrate it, like basically you would have to, on the one hand, unlock the rewards from the old staking pools. Then you would have to bridge these tokens from, in our case, Binance Smart Chain, onto the new mainnet. And there you would have to automatically add a staking delegation in the new pools in the new Onino mainnet. That's definitely I would say, cumbersome project to tackle. And we have not fully developed that concept out yet. But rest assured, as always, we're fully aware of that. This is a critical point. And we'll definitely give our best to make the migration as seamless and also as smooth as possible to, on the one hand, give, as always, our users a great user experience. And on the other hand, as you mentioned, prevent larger sell-offs by just making that transition as smooth as possible. To basically give people not many reasons for a sell-off at this stage, so to say. Then we have a great question upcoming, which is basically a perfect illustration on what the platform is supposed to do. I'd like to try and build a D app on OnlyGraph, but I have little coding knowledge. Could ChatGPT or similar help me with this? Perfect question. This is definitely possible. And the Onino platform will in the future, as I said before, contain a custom AI assistant that will also help you to turn your, so to say, non-technical business ideas into technical and ready to go smart contract code. So you are, in this case, whoever asked the question, basically the perfect customer for the Onino platform. As I said before, you will also always have to keep in the back of your head that AI-generated content of every kind, not only code, is still not 100% perfect yet, and you cannot guarantee for the 100% correctness. Especially smart contract code should, in my opinion, not be brought into production without having it reviewed at least by a human with proper understanding of the technology. But I think, especially in the context for the platform, especially for building POCs, so proof of concepts and MVPs rapidly And without much resources and cost and know-how, AI is definitely a great catalyst that can advance that quite rapidly. So imagine, for example, before, when you look at it right now, imagine just you're from a traditional Web2 company, or you're a developer like you who doesn't have any resources. It can take significant effort and time, probably months and thousands of or $10,000s of dollars, to only even test out a blockchain business idea. And it takes that much money and time and resources to even develop a simple MVP or proof of concept that helps you to validate your idea. And with the Unino platform, especially cases like that, like rapid MVP prototyping, is definitely possible already with today's AI technologies. Yeah, as I said, open for any more discussions on AI in the chat, especially if you want to go more into detail. Yeah, and I think for the next questions, I would pass the ball back to Lucas.
Yes, thank you very much. I will just go over the next two questions together. So the one is, could we get the vesting schedule? I believe the vesting schedule for all the tokens allocated towards the team. And then also another question directly flows into that with when is the next unlocking of tokens? Is it the day of the testnet release, and how much tokens will be unlocked by the team? So the majority portion of all team tokens will be starting to follow a 3-year linear vesting period after the release of our mainnet. That being said, this might still be tied to certain mainnet milestones, and you can look forward to the release of our documentation on Friday. We will have a full release schedule of tokens in that documentation, and the whole projection mapped out, and also each individual pool or allocation of our tokenomics is looked at with much more detail. So for everyone to read through and get all the information you need out of our public documentation on there. But the main information is that the majority portion is basically vested for 30 years, starting from the mainnet. And then going on to the next question is, how will you ensure project sustainability with the reward emissions? Can they run out? If so, what happens? Our token economic model is designed in a way that in theory it should never run out of rewards, because like the rewards will diminish over time. We've seen that kind of model most prominently on things like Bitcoin, but it's not directly comparable, as Bitcoin runs on proof of work and actually mints the tokens when a block is created, to say so. And proof of stake works a little bit differently, but you always have to take into account the reward pools for stakers always get fed on the one hand by an allocation in tokenomics, and on the other hand by all the generated fees that get generated by a network. So essentially, the key mechanics in design of your sustainable tokenomics is to have adjustable mechanisms in terms of phases when you have high growth and you have low growth. So when you have low growth in a system, that also most of the times means that there is not too much transactions generated throughout the whole ecosystem, leads to a project needing to subsidize any reward pool through the allocated tokens in their respective poolings. And then on the other hand, in high growth scenarios, that always goes hand in hand in more demand for tokens in terms of transaction fees generated by the system. And then you have less tokens basically subsidized through the token allocation pool. And our system is designed, of course, by having adjustable parameters for the issuance of tokens out of the pool in the tokenomics, and using primarily the transaction fees for subsidizing for the remuneration of validators, but also still being able to switch in terms of how much activity is actually on the network. But that again is something you can look forward to on our Gitbook release and the information that will be published there in the coming weeks, because we will also go into very, very much detail on the intricate workings of the Onino token and the design, because as you can think of, when you develop a blockchain system, you not only develop a technology on the one hand, but you also develop a whole economy on the other hand, which is your token economy. And we will be covering our whole economic and mechanism design in our Gitbook documentation. And with that, I will go on to the last question regarding the Onino tech and token questions. And that is, the team tokens say 25%. That is a lot of tokens for a small team. What is the vesting on this and when will they be released? I think we've covered the vesting already, but the 25% actually is out of our current information, which is in the old white paper released in late of 2022. There's actually one thing I can say to this: the actual allocation towards team advisors and developers, it has almost been cut in half. So we basically trimmed down on that size because we just see that 25% was quite a substantial amount, and we do see that it can be regarded as kind of unreasonable to some extent. So it's not 25% anymore. It's more like 12% for the team. And then the vesting is something, as again, will be 3 years starting from mainnet, and more details on that will be released on our documentation page.
All right, perfect. And with that, until the next questions. So first question is, there are still 3 partners project yet to be announced. What is the timeline for the announcement? Can you give us a ballpark time frame, even if you can't give us exact details? So yes, totally right. So there are still a couple of customers that we haven't announced yet, and there's different reasons for that. One reason is market. Some of them are waiting for better markets because it's just not the best market to do ICOs. We were really lucky and really successful with Cadaico, but also it must be said, it's much harder to raise specific or bigger amounts in a slow market, and it just makes sense strategically sometimes to wait for better market conditions. And on the other hand, some projects are also facing internal challenges or have to do internal things where the tokenized fundraising project doesn't fit in right away. So this may take a little more time. You should hear about the next project soon, but I can't unfortunately tell you when exactly and which project. So yeah, hope that answer helps. Next question is, have you yet onboarded more than the 5 initial projects? You mentioned that you have more interests from other businesses, but you couldn't take on everyone at that point. If the limit is 5, how will you look into increase this capacity? And if you are constrained to 5, at what stage do you say, for example, Cadaico have a good framework, AI, they need now is technical support, so we can look for another business to onboard? So essentially, the question is, if we have more than 5 projects and if we can extend it to more than 5. And so we do have more interest, like we said, but in the moment, it's a strategic decision not to take in more tokenized fundraising projects, because at the moment we're really focusing on the testnet and the Onino platform, and tokenized fundraising with those 5 can go alongside, but it's not a full focus for us. So I think 5 at the moment is a good number, but we can do many more in the future. So tokenized fundraising, as everything that we're building for the first time, is going to be reusable, like the Onino Launchpad, like every process and everything is going to be super scalable. So the great thing is that it's intensive and it takes a lot of work for the first time, but the more we use it, the less work it takes. So it's a very scalable system, and we will be able to increase this number by a lot once the strategic timing is there. So timing will be something like market conditions on one hand. It will also be Onino platform. So it will make sense to launch it once we have mainnet and the Onino network and the Onino ecosystem is much bigger. So tokenized fundraising will always exist as an incubator program, as a launchpad for the Onino blockchain, and more projects will be onboarded there. So at the moment, we are willingly not taking on more projects, but we will be able to take on more in the future. So will the company making the job chat service be a layer 1 also? Personally, I think that would be overkill for it. Kai?
Yeah, correctly analyzed. That would be overkill for it. So yeah, just for context, the question asker is presumably referring to WorkBuddy, our client. So no, WorkBuddy will not have an own layer 1. Basically, when we think about it, just a quick rundown, WorkBuddy is a, so to say, job-seeking platform where people can anonymously chat with potential employers or co-workers from their potential employers and, so to say, find interesting new jobs. And just to put it into perspective, like, for example, in Cadaico, the value of blockchain for the business basically comes a lot from the security aspect of it in combination with the AI technology. And for WorkBuddy, basically the value that blockchain technology provides more of kind of has a, so to say, economic function. Because, yeah, WorkBuddy is integrating a blockchain token in the form of a utility token that is set to incentivize the activity and also the interaction on the job search platform. So therefore, a standard token, so to say, in combination with a well thought out smart contract system to handle the supply and demand mechanisms, basically the circulation mechanisms of the token will be used, and there will not be a layer 1 needed for that case. So correctly analyzed. And yeah, I think the next one will be one for Lucas as well.
Yes, the people watching the slides right now see it is quite a large question, so I try to break it down without reading it out fully. The people asking, the person asking that question basically wanted to know how is our process in terms of evaluating each individual project in terms of our tokenization and tokenized fundraising service specifically, as the value, as, for example, for Cadaico with their own layer 1 in the background for validating AI training data, and then to WorkBuddy, which basically is running as a D-app on top of a layer 1 without having their own layer 1, are two completely different things. And we 100% see the concern that these things have to be evaluated differently, and we have to be evaluated diligently in terms of how much potential is behind of each project and how much is the token actually integrated into the business itself. And that is 100% we do with every project we're talking to. Might it be someone for tokenization or the tokenized fundraising in general? We're always talking about what is the intricate value of a token, how much is the token actually needed in a business model, and then find our ways around that, and basically also adjust goal settings and adjust valuation of any project in that terms of service, depending on the outcomes of our analysis. Yes, and then we can go on to the last section of the pre-submitted questions, and that is the more general side of things. And the first one is, have you been in talks with any exchanges in anticipation for the mainnet? We are aware that you don't want to be listed now, as you will need to relist on the mainnet, but would be good to be in communication with some exchanges. Safe trade might be a good option to begin with. I think there was some grammatical issue with the formatting of the question when we put it on the slides. But essentially, as you know, we can't release so much information beforehand. And safe trade might actually be a good question or a good option to look into. But there is not much we can share as of now. What we do 100% see the necessity for having an exchange of any sorts of kind up and running, or the integration up and running for the mainnet, because it's an essential onboarding mechanism to the mainnet. But that is all I can say as of now, and you would have to wait for further announcements in that regard. And with that, I will go on with the next question already, which is, will you be hosting more spaces with different communities other than just your own? Would be great to get in touch with, for example, Dr. Martin Hiesberg again, and find some other like-minded communities with strong followers to grow our community ourselves. A really, really good question from my point of view. It's funny, we are like quite regularly in touch in the background with Dr. Hiesberg. He's not just someone with a humongous knowledge about the whole blockchain space, but also just really humble and great personality himself. And then we are actively, especially now with the new member on board, which is Maya, that can help on that regard, looking to get our word out there, share our vision, share what we are doing and the things we have achieved to get more people in the Onino ecosystem and show them how our platform, for example, can make their life so much easier. So that's something I would answer with a 100% yes, we are looking towards doing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lucas. I think I will just take the last question. Also a very good one, focused on a team this time. In what capacity do the advisors help the project? Are they mainly just people that you can ask questions and may have some connections, or are they actively working on a project and are they paid? Both and all of it. So yeah, as you can think of, this differs completely from advisor to advisor and fully depends on their role and their area of competence and other factors. So just to go into specifics, we have, for example, on the one hand, we have, for example, our business angels, our value business angels, who also exactly act like such, right? They make connections for us and intros. They give us feedback and especially advice on strategic topics and decisions, and give us estimations on basically how the real world market could react to certain developments that we put. So they really act like in this classical advisory role. But then on the other hand, we also have our legal advisors, Nick and Dr. Bian Minert, who monitor the legal situation for us continuously. But other than that, only give us advice, so to say, when needed for some specific legal inquiries. And then on the other hand, there's also advisors like Andreas, our new blockchain architect, basically, where Alex has presented before, who are actively working on the project matters on a regular basis, but in his case, so to say, part-time. So yeah, there's definitely a whole spectrum of advisors that we have on board at Onino. Yeah, I have to say I'm very happy with all of our advisors actually, and I think they provide a great contribution to the team, regardless of in which form they contribute to Onino. Hope that answered the question. Yeah, and I think
Right, perfect. And with that, I think we are ending the pre-recorded questions and we're going to jump into the live questions. So I'm going to try to read the chat. There's been many questions or many messages and see where the first questions begin. Okay, I think the first one is from Bomber. Correct me if I'm wrong. Question, please. Onino focused on onboarding Web 2 into Web 3, and it's clear that marketing will be geared towards this goal. Updated website, an example. How much marketing will be geared towards the existing crypto world? So, yes, totally correct. The main goal for Onino as a company is, of course, to generate revenue. And as we're going to generate revenue with projects that are Web 3, Web 2 mainly, but also Web 3, this is where marketing will be tailored to. But it will also be Web 3. So for Web 3, alongside the customers and the marketing that we're preparing for Web 2 companies, we are also seeking for partnerships with Web 3 companies. So it's always going to be a little of both. I think Onino will distinguish itself through many Web 3 partnerships and cooperations and customers. But as any other network, a blockchain just makes sense for Web 3 stuff as well. So it's not going to be Onino is the blockchain for Web 2 and nothing else. There's going to be a lot of Web 3 typical things, I would say. But I think the distinction is going to be that we're trying to go really into the Web 2 companies and helping them to adopt blockchain technology as well. Does anyone see any more questions?
I've quickly skimmed through it, and many of them have been answered in the chat directly already.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So
You're too quick.
See. I see a few people writing. Let's wait a second for the questions to flow in.
There was the one from Yuki. I think I dropped it in the chat, but still going to go into it. Will there be a way to test contract without actually having to deploy them? Yeah, I think there's definitely ways to do that, so to say, but the standard process of testing contracts is just deploying them on a testnet in the first place, and because that just gives you like the most realistic circumstances and conditions to test your contracts that come the closest to your actual final deployed solution. So this is why we'll at first not provide any testing suite, so to say. In the beginning, it will be running on the Onino testnet anyways. But yeah, you can rest assured that also after the Onino mainnet launch, we will still provide test networks for testing purposes in the platform. There will probably just be a toggle, so to say, where you can switch between test and production, as you are used to it from other platforms, like, for example, Stripe also does it that way. So you can just switch between test and production mode, and that automatically then switches your blockchain, so that in that kind of sense, you will also be able to test it through the platform as well. Yeah.
So, any more questions? Will Elon Musk be an advisor? It's a tough question. We may ask your advice before we decide on that. What kind of beer do we like? Kai
That's a
Lucas.
hard one. Alex is not a beer drinker. Alex
Yeah,
is more
me
of a
neither.
guy,
So.
not mistaken.
If I drink beer, I like Helles. But yeah,
Helles.
I also like to drink other things when I'm not working. I'm not too much of a drinker in general.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I'm actually a fan of beer. So I like to try different kinds of new beers and stuff. So I'm the cliche German here. But yeah, actually, I also like the more of the soft beer type, like Helles. Because I'm basically too soft for all of these hardcore northern German beers. Gotta admit. Erdinger, good choice.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't.
question.
I don't drink beer at all, but we actually got a serious questions in the chat. If I could interrupt
BMW,
for a
Audi, or Mercedes? That's a serious question.
Actually, not
Definitely
the one
Audi.
Yeah, sticking with the point of the question above, Yuki Fomo actually asked an interesting question that we could just point a little light on how things work in that direction, and that is, how will liquidity be migrated to the mainnet? And that is a really good question, and that also ties into the whole idea of why a integration with a centralized exchange is so important, so people can actually migrate liquidity over through a centralized intermediary, to say so, onto a decentralized ledger as it is within the blockchain. So that's where the CAXs get in and play their part. Then also another question from Neskoto. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And his question is, do you also plan on launching on ERC as well? And I can 100% answer that with a yes. The current timing is not clear as of now, because it does take quite some effort to launch there. It also takes some partners to facilitate the whole move. But as you maybe, if you go through the latest blog posts we did, we had a whole blog post covering a planned strategic move towards ERC 20 tokens in general, or Ethereum, a few weeks back.
All right, I'm seeing most of the questions are getting answered in the chat before we can even read them out. So I think that's a good time to end the community. As always, there was notice last time, I'm always the boo man. I'm always ending the community update. But I'd say thank you very much for joining, and see you and hear you next month.
Yes. Thanks everyone for joining.
Have a great night. Bye bye.